Hello, I'm Valerie Wright, and welcome to The Mystic Way. I would like to chat with you about folklore, mythology, and religion. Folklore is an expression of culture for a particular group of people that includes oral traditions, custom and belief, ritual and celebration, and the transmission of this information from one region to another. This is passed along informally, mostly unwritten, and is demonstratively mostly through action. Mythology is a subset of folklore. It is the foundational narratives of a society that include tales of humans and heroes, non-humans and gods, and other supernatural other beings. Myth mostly pertains to gods, where legend pertains to humans, but both are in the remote past. Neither of these are considered religion. Folklore is considered popular belief, and myth is considered a subset of religion, one that includes ritual and morality, technology, theology, mystical experience, but it really has no sacred value. Folklore is considered ethnohistory, or the study of cultures examined through a historical lens. And myth is considered a study within ancient history, specifically comparative mythology. Inasmuch as history is written by the victors, when history is not rooted in facts, but the interpretation of winners, meaning these victors can impose their narrative upon the people so that over time, each retelling becomes fact. As to religion, well, that is considered here's a long quote, a social, cultural system of designated behaviors and practices, morals, beliefs, worldviews, texts, sanctified places, prophecies, ethics, or organizations that relate humanity to supernatural, transcendent, and spiritual values, unquote. And though there is no scholarly consensus of what precisely constitutes a religion, it is a construct that rules over our everyday life, especially here in America. Now for a bit of backstory. The idea of religion is a distinct set of beliefs and doctrines dates only to the 17th century with the Christian and the Protestant Reformation. So generally speaking, then, all those others who did not fall into that category were colonized, or they were overshadowed by the primary organization in charge of writing and the dissemination of literature, and by extension, knowledge. Generally speaking, again, this is how shamanism, heathens, and pagans, to give only 3 examples, got swept under the rug of relevance for not being a religion, but merely a folklore or mythology. If either folklore or mythology is brought into the public view, it is immediately quantified as only folklore or just mythology. In short, both are used in a dismissive way, equally as a way to dismiss any relevance or importance they may have. The result has been that when the average person considers either folklore or mythology, they immediately consider it untrue or old-fashioned or quaint or not educated. Meanwhile, most adherents of religion hold true to the idea of an invisible man in the sky with an army of winged beings who either condemns or condones based on a set of arbitrary rules particular to a specific period or interpretation. At its best, folklore and mythology are informally learned knowledge about a particular era that one chooses to relate to their self or community. applying those beliefs and traditions expressively in words and music, customs and deeds, and behaviors and materials. Where positivity manifested, it can be the interactive and dynamic process of creation and communication of shared knowledge with other people. For example, knock-knock jokes are folklore, as are Jewish dreidels, as are weaving and needlework of folk designs, as are wedding ceremonies and herbal lore, as are the laugh out loud cats and family recipes at specific times of year, as are fairy tales and superstitions. Each of these is a type of expression readily found in literature and psychology, history and biology, sociology and technology, but never quite good enough to be religion. Yet, if Gallup polls are to be believed, then the belief in Christianity, as but one example, has dropped from 70% of the worldwide population to 35%. Whereas other, usually considered New Age or pagan, Buddhist or Hindu, to name but a few, has gone from 0.05% to 10% in the same time period. Then, according to the Pew Research Center, as of 2019, 63% of Americans identify as Christian, which is down 13% from the last decade, where unaffiliated, other, and none has grown 26% during the same time period. I think it worth noting that regardless of religious or other non-affiliation, 49% of Americans say they have experienced mystical insight and or awakening. This percentage is twice as high as it was 10 years ago. Now, per Gallup in 2019, and this is a quote, this year's survey finds that religious and mystical experiences are more common today among those who are unaffiliated with any particular religion than they were in the 1960s among the public as a whole. Now, when I read that, I cannot help but ponder, is religion suppressing mystical experience? And if so, can this be attributed to dogma? You see, dogma is a doctrine of belief in a religion or political system. Its literal meaning from ancient Greece is something that seems true. Seems being the operative word here. Basically, if you believe, follow a particular religion or philosophy, you believe in its dogma or core assumptions. So that if you belong to a cult that believes that Kool-Aid consumption is the only true path, then you follow the Kool-Aid dogma. Once adopted, you accept that dogma without question. So when asked, you drink the Kool-Aid. Nor is this idea relegated to fringe cults. In fact, I personally have seen in asatru and heathenry today this same sort of mentality. In kind, I've seen dogmatic expression in paganism, like the threefold law, which some assume is a universally accepted belief of all pagan groups. For myself, as a mystic, as a scholar and seer, I have a vantage or perspective, and that is relative to where I am at any given point in my life experience. For me, my vantage is far removed from the recurring abstract collection of images and propositions. Instead, it has developed into a clearly seen amalgam of experience, intimately woven by emotion and intellect to form an integral part of my decision-making process, which remains in an ever constant state of flow and flux. So, no, I'm not dogmatic. I am, however, part of a group. You see, through countless millennia, in every ever-changing culture the world over, there have been those who sought direct contact with the divine. Not as part of the mainstream religious belief, but part of other. Today, this other is often described as mysticism, which is not to say some hermit living alone in the woods, or a nun closed off in a convent, or an individual denying themselves of the pleasures of life. You see, in the ancient way of mysticism, there were various ways to contact the gods or experience divine revelation. Mysticism was recognized to the degree that there were mystery schools. Nor does the idea of this mystery school or the ancient mystics part of or devoid of religion, so that you could be both religious and mystical, or you could be non-religious and mystical. But mostly today we see spirituality and mysticism often used in conjunction with each other. So what does it mean to be mystical, to be spiritual, to contact the gods, or to experience divine revelation? Well, first, these are but words used to express an encounter with your own spiritual or higher self, with that of a deity or a divine energy. Such encounters may be physical or semi-physical. After all, and again, these accounts the world over span every century. They relate how the gods and other divine beings walked the earth interacting with humans. Now, organized religion wants us to believe that this is a total fabrication, or it's just poetic imagery, or belongs to some distant past, or simply never happened. Yet, the ancient lore the world over relates how otherworldly beings take on any number of incognitos, from strangers who appear to help us in grave need, then just as quickly disappear, to a mysterious fog or storm that rolls in, to an animal messenger, or even a dream vision. Some, when visualizing such encounters, may conjure some Hollywood image of a beautiful actress or a muscular actor all glammed up with CGI. Instead, let's step back a moment from the strong impression of media to consider that many people have these encounters in a more natural and ordinary setting. Case in point, I am a trail runner. I frequently encounter wild animals, which is not surprising in that I'm in their home. When I literally run upon a deer or a snake or a squirrel or a bear or any number of beings who dwell in those woods, I have an opportunity to either ignore them and continue about my way, or pause. In a moment of stillness, we will share space. We will make eye contact. We will breathe together and exchange a flow of nourishment from them to me, to the green world around us, and then back again. This is a pulse. This is a heartbeat. And it is this ritual, yes, ritual, that builds and coalesces into an ecstasy, into a journey that ensures a continued relationship between myself and that animal, between human society and the animal realm. More than a random woodland encounter, this is a gift exchange. It is a dance of reciprocity. I never harm or damage the wilderness about me or its full-time inhabitants. I return to it materially with propitiation and peace and prayer, with words and food offerings and picking up trash. To various degrees, every human is engaged in this process when they listen and attune to their environment. But the mystic, the Seidr bearer, the shaman, the witch, the berserker, they are exemplary voyagers within the intermediary realm, making them singular strategists and negotiators with humankind and other kind. One may determine this hubristic or crazy to believe that every encounter is with a divine presence. And that's partially correct. But not every encounter is. This is where discernment comes in. The key here, again, is that everyone has such encounters. Some choose to consider them random and inconsequential. Some may consider them timely, based on seeking help or guidance. Some may pause for a deeper look. Which are you, and which one do you want to be? Thank you for joining me for this chat. If you like what you see and hear, please subscribe, give this video a thumbs up, and support me on Patreon. Your reciprocity, as always, is ever greatly appreciated.